Good evening, sixth graders. Welcome to another lesson in Natural Resources in Chapter 3. We're covering Lesson 34, and we'll be covering pages 71 to 73. Another part of the water that is in our hydrosphere is in our atmosphere, or the air we breathe, and that's called water vapor. That happens because of the water cycle. And the sun warms the surface of the oceans, lakes, and streams and causes it to change from a liquid to a gas. When we see this word humidity, it just means the water vapor that is in the air, or that water has changed to gas and it is in our atmosphere. If it is a warmer temperature, we're going to have more humidity. So if it's in the summertime and you feel very sweaty and sticky, that's because the humidity is very high. Most of our fresh water is frozen, and you'll see most of it here in Antarctica. This is a diagram of Antarctica, and you'll notice that it's covered mostly with snow. The blue circle in the corner here shows you what Antarctica would look like without this, what we call ice sheet, which is a very, very thick layer of snow and ice. The Arctic, which is at the North Pole, is not considered a landmass or not a continent because there's no land underneath the snow. It's only compacted snow and ice. Our frozen water makes up 70% of Earth's fresh water. And it's just layers of snow and ice, similar to what a glacier is. In this ice sheet, it is almost 5 kilometers deep, or 4,776 meters deep. In the middle here, right in the middle, I'll go over here and point to this. This is where that famous ice shelf we're going to talk about in just a moment is. It's called the Ross Ice Shelf. This is an example of an ice shelf, and what an ice shelf is just an ice sheet that is moving, just like a glacier, off the land and into the ocean, and it floats on the ocean, moving very, very, very slowly. This is that famous ice shelf called the Ross Ice Shelf. It is the largest ice shelf in Antarctica. In some places, it's 180 meters thick, up to 910 meters thick. The highest point above the water is 60 meters above water, so a lot of its mass is underneath the water. It's 965 kilometers long and 804 kilometers wide, so this is a very, very large ice shelf. Another part of an ice shelf, what happens is that ice shelf, as it's going into the water, the current and the waves and the wind will break off pieces of that ice shelf and make what is called an iceberg. And when it breaks off, it can float all by itself, and you'll see that in this picture that most of its mass is underneath the water. This is a diagram of what would happen with an ice sheet. Here it starts on the land and it's moving slowly. Remember, all particles of matter are moving, whether it's slow or fast. Well, this ice sheet is moving toward the ocean, and then as it gets off of the land and starts floating into the ocean, it's what becomes an ice shelf. Then the water and the current and the wind will cause pieces to break off in what is called an iceberg. In the northern part of the Earth, in the Arctic Circle, this is what is known as sea ice. Now, sea ice is different from an ice sheet. Ice sheet is fresh water. Sea ice is frozen ocean water. However, because it's very difficult for salt water to freeze, the temperature would have to be very, very cold for it to freeze, and it's usually always cold in the North Pole and in the South Pole. The very, very cold temperatures cause this water to freeze, but it doesn't get very thick. The thickest pieces of ice is about 5 meters. And because it's so thin, it's easily broken by the current and the waves and the wind. Now, it's very important that we preserve the natural resources that God has given us. And there's 3 ways that we can do that. This is the only planet that we can live on, so we need to take care of it. And we can do that by reducing, meaning using less of our resources or being careful on what we use. We can also reuse something, using something again, repurposing it, instead of just throwing it away. And then we also recycle, taking glass, aluminum, other kinds of metals, paper, and recycling it or breaking that down and making something new from it. Taking examples, taking cans, aluminum cans, they would take that to a recycling center, melt it down, and then they would take that metal and make more aluminum cans from that. And this is how we can, as people, take care of God's creation and the resources that He's given us. Okay, go ahead and read pages 71 to 73, and I'll see you again next time.